Welcome back to the weekly rundown. So I am just going to keep having some interview fun. And this next guest I am very excited for. You will be excited too. Introducing DJ Connor himself.
Chili in the entire world?
Yep.
All right, here you go.
Just a little bit bland.
Hi, Michael.
Hi, Taylor. How are you?
I'm great. How are you doing today?
I'm good.
I see you're quarantined in a great place.
Yeah, this is the perfect place to be for me.
I was telling him right before we started this, I was trying so hard to get that background too so I could fit in, and it just wasn't in my favor.
Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, right?
So I know you come out to Palm Springs a bit, or at least once a year typically, right?
A couple times a year. We come out every year for the Mary Nutter softball tournament, and we're there pretty much every day at some extent, whether it be all day from like 8 o'clock in the morning to like 9 o'clock at night, or sometimes it's just for a few games. I brought my daughter there, 7, 8 years maybe. And then I come out and coach her team and some other teams. So we play out that way a lot. I just love the area. It's kind of peaceful. We used to take like a day or two trip and kind of go out there, stay someplace, kind of walk around in the middle of town.
Enjoy the weather.
This part of the year, as you get to the winter, the lights are up and the whole place is kind of like mellow but magical at the same time.
Yeah, definitely a different vibe this year, unfortunately, for everyone. How have you been spending your quarantine times?
Well, my youngest daughter lives with me, so I've had people I love at home. It's been actually really nice. And what we've tried to do is really invest in kind of all the things we want to do in the future. So we've been writing and planning, and my daughter all of a sudden decided she wanted to help shoot a film. So my writing partner and I wrote a film, and she and I basically just shot a film in our place and a little bit of exterior stuff. She's got this real vision. She's a photographer and she's into traveling. So when the sports thing ends at some point, she's got a bright future ahead of her.
That is so awesome. And now, kind of speaking of this production aspect, a new season of The Connors recently premiered, and I heard you got to direct an episode?
Yeah, I directed the Halloween episode. So it was kind of coming full circle. Halloween's kind of our big show every year, and that was a big responsibility because it adds in costumes and hair and makeup, and then you add in special effects and pranks, and it's a bit like directing your parents and your siblings in a way. So it's a different dynamic, but it was fun because I really knew what I wanted, and what I tried to do was kind of take the tone of the old show and bits and pieces of that and combine it with being very modern. And I was really lucky. The kids, Ames McNamara and Jaden Ray, who plays my daughter Mary, were really the center of that show. So I got to really empower them in a special way.
That's awesome. And how are we feeling about season 3? Is there anything you can share with us?
Well, you're going to see a lot of the socioeconomic impact of kind of what's going on in the world and how it shapes the family and the way it impacts the Connors as a whole, but also kind of how they come together to keep everything afloat with the restaurant, and then kind of managing the relationships as you're kind of pressed together in a whole new way.
Is it true that Roseanne actually scouted you herself, basically?
Well, I met her on the second audition. There was 7 auditions spanning 6 months when I originally got the job. And I met her on the second one, and I told her a joke, and she pushed for me from that point on. And, I'm always very thankful of all of her support.
That is so. How old were you?
6. Well, I guess I was 5. So it was just before I turned 6 when I started.
That is so cool. Do you remember the moment? Do you remember the joke?
Yeah, it was my siblings and I and my cousins, we all lived together, and we used to make jokes. So we used to take other jokes and try to kind of create our own. So it was, why did the turtle cross the road? Chicken's day off.
Okay.
So for a 5-year-old, that was pretty good material. That was pretty A material at the time. And she loved that I was willing to tell a joke, because a lot of the really professional kids would come in and she'd say that to them, tell me a joke. And they would say, I'm not prepared for that. So just being a playful kid, I think, really separated me.
You're giving me a headache.
Me too.
I've had it.
Me too.
As quarantine kind of started, one of the things I did was I had all these crew members who were home for the first time, who weren't able to work. So what I did was I started a podcast called Fish's Call Sheet. And it was an opportunity to kind of share what the people behind the scenes do. And I think it's a really nice place if you're into the industry. And in our world, there's a lot of people in the industry who spend a lot of time in Palm Springs. It's a good way to get an idea of what people do on some of those titles you've never heard before: a location manager, a property master, set dresser, that kind of stuff. And the people are fascinating. And what you see is how many amazing just artists work in our business.
Awesome. Well, we'll make sure that we'll share how to get to that as well in this.
Okay.
But thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. If you're ever in the Palm Springs area again, and once COVID's clear up, feel free to come by and visit Palm Springs. I know that's the first thing on your list, right?
No, I mean, I appreciate the offer. It's a pleasure, Taylor.
All right. Thank you. The Weekly Rundown will be right back.